I never imagined that an ordinary morning would lead to the most profound, life-altering experience of my existence. My name is Jennifer, and on March 3rd, 2024, I died. This wasn't a dream, nor was it a hallucination. I was clinically dead for 6 minutes. What I witnessed on the other side shook me to my core, especially what Jesus revealed about our pets. I had always loved animals, but I never truly understood their deeper purpose in our lives, until I crossed over. What I learned about their souls and their spiritual mission left me in absolute awe. This is my testimony. March 3rd began like any other day. I woke up early, stretched, and made my way to the kitchen for my morning coffee. My golden retriever, Max, wagged his tail eagerly, waiting for breakfast. Smiling, I scratched behind his ears and filled his bowl. He was always by my side, my silent protector, my most loyal friend. It was a crisp morning, and I decided to take Max for a quick walk before heading to work. The sun had barely risen, casting a golden glow over the quiet streets. I inhaled the fresh air, feeling a deep sense of gratitude for another day. Little did I know that within hours, my life would change forever. As I drove my usual route to work, everything seemed normal until the unexpected happened. Out of the corner of my eye, I saw a truck speeding through a red light. There was no time to react. The impact was instant. My body jerked forward, glass shattered, and in an instant, everything slowed down. Time itself seemed to pause. The world around me became distant and muted. My vision blurred, and then darkness. But it wasn't the kind of darkness one might expect. It wasn't empty. It wasn't nothingness. It felt like stepping into a space outside of time itself. I could still think, still feel, but my body was gone. I remember trying to breathe, but there was no need. Strangely, I wasn't afraid. Instead, I felt a deep, unshakable peace, an overwhelming sense of knowing I was somewhere else. At first, there was only silence. Not an eerie, hollow silence, but one that felt warm, comforting, like an embrace. Then I began to move, not with my feet, not by my own will, but as if I were being gently pulled forward by an unseen force. That's when I noticed it. A tunnel. But it wasn't just light at the end of it. The light was alive. It shimmered. It moved. It called to me. And it wasn't just brightness. It was love. Pure, undeniable, all-encompassing love. As I moved forward, everything that had weighed on me, my worries, my pain, my regrets, melted away. It felt as though I was shedding my human limitations, stepping into something greater, something infinite. For the first time in my life, I felt truly whole. Then something unexpected happened. Memories began flashing before me. Not just the big moments, but the small ones too. Times I had comforted Max when he was scared. Nights he had curled up beside me as I cried. Moments of pure joy when we played together. Why was I seeing this? Why did these moments matter? At the end of the tunnel, I stepped into a place beyond imagination. The colors were more vibrant than anything I had ever seen, as if they carried their own life, their own consciousness. The very air pulsed with love, not heavy, but light and pure, like stepping into the embrace of something that had always been waiting for me. Then I felt it, a presence, not in a physical sense, but in the very air around me. And then I saw them, animals, so many of them, dogs, cats, birds, even creatures I had never seen before, all glowing with an inner radiance. And then one of them ran toward me. I gasped. It was Max, or at least it looked like him, but younger, healthier, more vibrant than he had ever been in life. His eyes locked onto mine, and in that moment I felt an unbreakable connection, stronger than anything I had ever known. Max wasn't just there, he had been waiting for me, and he wasn't alone. Surrounding Max were countless other animals, all standing together as if they had a purpose, a mission. At first I didn't understand. Why were they here? Why was I here? Then I felt it, a presence behind me, powerful, overwhelming. I turned, and that's when I saw him. Jesus stood before me, his light more intense than anything around him, yet it didn't hurt to look. He was warmth, kindness, power, and love all at once. And when he spoke, I didn't hear his voice with my ears. I felt it resonate through every part of my being. "Do you understand why they are here?" he asked. I could barely breathe. My voice failed me, so I shook my head. Jesus looked down at the animals, then back at me. "They have always been part of my creation," he said. "Never lesser, never separate from my love. But the world has forgotten this truth." As he extended his hand, the space around us shifted. The tunnel faded, and suddenly I was standing in a vast, radiant garden stretching infinitely in every direction. The sky shimmered with golden light, filtering through trees unlike anything on earth. The grass beneath my feet wasn't just soft, it was alive, humming with energy. Animals walked freely here, interacting with people who glowed with the same radiant light. Some were reunited with pets they had lost long ago, embracing them with laughter and tears. Others walked alongside creatures they had never met, yet somehow knew. "This is how it was always meant to be," Jesus said softly. "A world without division, without suffering, without pain." I watched as a woman knelt beside a small dog, tears streaming down her face as the pup licked her hands. The love between them was undeniable, unbreakable. And in that moment, I understood. This wasn't just heaven. It was a restoration of something we had forgotten. A million questions raced through my mind, but only one made it to my lips. "Do they remember us?" I asked, my voice trembling. Jesus smiled, his eyes filled with a love so deep it felt endless. "More than you know." And with those words, my heart shattered in the most beautiful way. As I stood in that luminous garden surrounded by animals both familiar and unknown, I felt it again, that overwhelming presence, stronger than anything I had ever encountered. It wasn't just powerful, it was everything. A warmth filled the air, so full of love that my soul responded before my mind could even grasp what was happening. I turned slowly, and there he was. Jesus. The light surrounding him wasn't just light, it was life itself, the very essence of love, truth, and peace. It was as if every fibre of my being knew him, recognized him as the source of all things. He wasn't just standing before me. He was everywhere, his presence woven into the very fabric of this realm. I wanted to fall to my knees, to bow before him, but I had no physical body to kneel with. And yet I felt it, felt my entire existence bending in reverence. Then he smiled, his gaze locking onto mine, and in that instant I felt truly seen. Not just my form, not just my soul, but every thought, every struggle, every moment of doubt and faith I had ever carried. And in his eyes there was no judgment, only understanding, only infinite love. Then he spoke again, and his voice didn't just reach my ears, it resonated within me. "Jennifer!" The way he said my name, it was as if I had never truly heard it before. "You have come here for a reason." I couldn't respond. I could barely think. But I knew, without him saying anything more, that this wasn't just for me. This was for all of us. For every person who had ever loved an animal, for everyone who had ever wondered about their place in God's creation. Jesus gestured toward the animals, and I knew he was about to reveal something that would change everything I thought I knew. "They have always been part of my plan," he said, "but the world has forgotten their purpose." I struggled to understand. My mind raced back to Max, to all the pets I had cherished throughout my life. Had I been missing something all along? Then Jesus raised his hand, and suddenly, moments from my own life played out before me. Every time Max had comforted me when I was sad, every time he had laid beside me during my darkest nights, and in that instant the truth became clear. Woven by love, by purpose, by something far greater than we ever realized. as I watched the glowing threads pulsed with life, linking people and animals in a way that went beyond words. Some threads shone brightly, strong and unbreakable, while others flickered as if struggling to stay connected. I turned to Jesus, my heart full of questions. "What do these threads mean?" I asked. He looked at me with a deep, knowing kindness. "These are the unseen bonds between souls," he explained. "Every connection between a human and an animal is more than just physical. It is spiritual, a thread woven by love, purpose, and destiny." I felt my breath catch. Suddenly, memories of my life with Max played before me, not just the moments of joy, but the ones filled with sorrow, loneliness, and fear. I saw how he had been there in my darkest nights, lying quietly beside me, absorbing my pain in ways I had never understood. "Many times they are sent to carry what you cannot bear," Jesus continued. Tears welled in my eyes. "They take our burdens?" "Yes," he said gently. "They do it willingly, out of love." I turned to Max, my loyal companion, and in that instant I understood what I had never seen before. His presence in my life hadn't been random. He had been sent to me, chosen for me to walk with me through my struggles. "They are not just companions," Jesus said. "They are guardians, healers, messengers of my love." The weight of his words settled over me like a warm embrace. I thought of all the pets I had ever known, of the countless people who had found solace in the quiet, unwavering love of an animal. I thought of the lonely woman whose only friend was her cat, the boy who clung to his dog after his parents' divorce, the man who had given up on life until he adopted a rescue animal. None of it was by chance. "They are sent to heal, to protect, to teach," Jesus said, his voice full of certainty. "And their souls are eternal." A shiver ran through me. I had always wondered what happened to animals after they passed. I had hoped, but I had never known. Jesus held my gaze, as if hearing the question in my heart. "They do not simply disappear," he said. "Their love, their essence, their purpose continues. And for those who have loved them, they will be reunited." I felt my heart swell with a joy so profound it nearly overwhelmed me. I would see Max again. The bond we shared wasn't temporary. It was eternal. As we walked through the garden, I noticed something incredible. Every person we passed was surrounded by animals. Some had their childhood pets beside them, others walked with creatures they had never seen before yet somehow knew. "Each one is placed with purpose," Jesus explained. "They are not random. They are chosen for you, just as you are chosen for them." A thought struck me. Could it be that Max was sent to me? Jesus nodded. "Long before you knew him, he was meant for you." I swallowed hard. "Do they know?" I asked. "Do they understand what they do for us?" Jesus smiled. "More than you realize, and they do it willingly, out of love." I looked at Max, at the animals surrounding us, and I knew. Our pets are more than we ever imagined. They are part of God's divine plan, sent to guide us, protect us, love us. And when their time here ends, they do not truly leave. They wait for us, just beyond the veil. I stood in awe, watching the intricate web of glowing energy linking people to their beloved animals. The threads pulsed with a warmth that felt alive, but as my eyes traveled across them, I noticed something troubling. Some of the connections were dimming, fading into the shadows. A heaviness settled in my chest. "Why are some weaker than others?" I asked. Jesus sighed softly, his expression filled with both love and sorrow. "Because love strengthens but neglect weakens. Many welcome animals into their homes, but they do not truly understand their purpose. When they are abandoned, mistreated, or ignored, the bond that was meant to be sacred begins to fade." His words struck me like a wave. I'd always believed animals could love, but I'd never considered how much they depended on human kindness, not just for survival, but for their own spiritual well-being. Scenes unfolded before me. A man who had once cherished his dog, but had grown distant, too consumed by the demands of life to notice the longing in his pet's eyes. The dog remained loyal, still loving him, but the connection between them had dimmed. Then I saw a child whose bond with her cat was so strong that even after the cat had passed, their thread of light remained, unbroken, eternal. Even in death, love does not end, Jesus said gently. Every act of kindness toward an animal strengthens this divine thread. Every moment of love shared between human and animal echoes throughout eternity. Tears filled my eyes. How many times had I taken my own pets for granted? Had I ever truly understood the depth of our connection? I reached down and placed my hand on Max, feeling a warmth radiate from him, a reassurance that our bond was strong, unbreakable. And then realization struck me. These animals, these souls, were never just companions. They were messengers of love, living bridges between heaven and earth. Jesus stopped walking, and in that instant, the radiant garden around us shifted. A deep sorrow filled the air, not darkness but a weight, a heaviness that pressed into my very being. I swallowed hard. "What is this place?" I whispered. Jesus looked at me with infinite compassion. "This is the burden they carry for you." Before I could ask what he meant, I saw them. Animals of all kinds. Dogs, cats, horses, even birds standing beside humans who were lost in grief, pain, and loneliness. Some people were crying, others sat in silence, their eyes empty. Then I saw something that shattered my heart. Their animals were absorbing it, not in a way that harmed them, but in a way that showed unwavering devotion. The sorrow their owners carried, the burdens they couldn't put into words, these creatures had taken it into themselves, offering silent comfort, asking for nothing in return. Many do not realize, Jesus continued, that the ones they call pets are also healers. They take on your grief, your stress, your loneliness. They suffer with you so that you do not suffer alone. I turned to Max, my heart racing. Memories flooded my mind. The nights I had cried myself to sleep, the times I had felt lost, and how he had always been there, lying beside me, silent, steady, carrying a weight I never even knew he bore. "Does it hurt them?" I asked, my voice barely a whisper. Jesus shook his head. "They do it out of love, but it is why their time on earth is often shorter. They give so much more than most humans ever notice." A sob caught in my throat. I had always wondered why animals lived such brief lives compared to us. Now I understood. They burned brightly, intensely, because they were giving, healing, carrying burdens we never even realized we had. Jesus lifted his hand, and suddenly the sky above us opened. The garden expanded into something even greater, a vast, endless realm where animals ran free, where they played, where they thrived. It wasn't separate from heaven. It was heaven. "This is their home," Jesus said. "Just as you are welcomed into my Father's kingdom, so are they." I watched in awe as spirits of animals leaped through golden fields, soaring with joy. There were no cages, no chains, no fear. Only love, only peace. "They remember," Jesus continued. "They wait for those who loved them, and when the time comes, they will reunite." I saw it then, a woman running toward a dog she had lost years ago. The moment they touched, the thread of light between them ignited, glowing even brighter than before. The love between them had never faded, never disappeared. It had only been waiting. The joy on her face, the pure, boundless love radiating from the dog, it was indescribable. Jesus turned to me, his voice gentle yet full of unshakable certainty. "This is my promise. No love is ever lost, no life is ever wasted. They are part of heaven, just as you are." Jesus' voice carried both warmth and certainty as he spoke, yet his expression grew more serious as he turned back to me. But many do not listen. At first, I didn't understand. Then I saw it. Flashes of moments where animals had tried to communicate with their humans. A cat, lingering near a door, its body tense, warning of unseen danger. A dog refusing to leave its owner's side when they were sick, sensing what even doctors could not. Birds gathering outside a window, their presence a silent herald of life-changing news to come. They speak, Jesus said, not in words, but in signs, in presence, in energy. Yet how many people ignore them? My heart sank. How many times had I brushed off Max's strange behaviours as mere quirks? Had he been trying to tell me something all along? They are sent to guide, to warn, to comfort, Jesus continued. But you must learn to listen. You must learn to see. I watched as animals subtly nudged their owners towards something important. Some stood guard against unseen dangers, their instincts far beyond human understanding. Others provided comfort at just the right moment, sensing sorrow before a single tear was shed. The realization dawned on me like the morning sun breaking through darkness. They are more than pets, I whispered. They are messengers. Jesus nodded. They always have been. And for the first time, I truly understood. A deep peace settled over me in that sacred garden, surrounded by creatures of every kind. Yet a lingering question burned inside me. What happens to them when they pass? Jesus must have sensed my thoughts because he turned to me with a gentle, knowing smile. They do not disappear, he said. They do not fade into nothingness. Their spirits continue, just as yours will. At that moment the garden shifted, and I found myself in a place filled with souls, animals of all kinds. Some I recognized, while others were unfamiliar, yet their presence radiated love and warmth. Then I saw something that took my breath away. One by one, animals ran toward the people who had just entered this realm. A golden retriever leaped into its owner's arms, tail wagging furiously, love overflowing. A cat twined around a woman's legs, purring with the same affection it had shown in life. Birds swooped down, perching on shoulders, their songs echoing with recognition. The reunions were overwhelming, their joy beyond words. This is what awaits them, Jesus said. Just as you long for those you love, so do they. And when the time comes, they will be waiting. Tears blurred my vision as I watched a man kneel, overcome, as a massive golden retriever barreled toward him. The moment they touched, their bond reignited, bright, eternal, unbreakable. A little girl clutched a rabbit she had lost years ago, pressing it to her chest as she wept with happiness. They know who loved them, Jesus continued, and those who cared for them will never be forgotten. And in that moment I knew every moment I had spent loving Max, caring for him, had never been in vain. It would never be lost. When my time came, he would be waiting. Overwhelmed with gratitude, I fell to my knees, tears streaming down my face. Jesus knelt beside me, placing a gentle hand on my shoulder. Do not grieve as if they are gone, he said softly, for love like this never ends. They are not gone forever. Jesus' voice was steady, filled with a truth deeper than anything I had ever known. They live just beyond the veil, waiting for the day you will walk together once more. But then, something in his expression changed. The warmth of peace that had wrapped around me moments ago shifted, replaced by a weight that settled deep in my heart. There is something you must understand. His tone was firm, yet sorrowful. Not all animals experience this reunion. Confusion flickered through me. What do you mean? Jesus extended his hand, and suddenly I saw it, a place unlike the golden fields of reunion. It was dark, cold, and empty. Animals roamed there, lost and abandoned. Their spirits drifted, their eyes filled with sadness. Some had been starved, others abused, many simply forgotten. This is the result of cruelty, Jesus said, his voice laced with sorrow. Those who neglect, harm, or abandon these souls create a wound in the universe. They sever the sacred bond that was meant to be honored. A deep ache filled my chest. I had always known animal cruelty was wrong, but I had never understood it like this. What happens to those who harm them? I asked, dreading the answer. Jesus' eyes, filled with infinite wisdom, softened. Every soul is given the chance to repent, to make right what they have done. But if they refuse, the weight of their actions follows them into eternity. A chill ran down my spine as I saw flashes of people who had mistreated animals. They were not punished in the way I had imagined, but they were made to feel the suffering they had inflicted. Every ounce of pain mirrored back at them. Jesus turned to me, his sorrow deep. This is why I ask you to tell them to love, to protect, to cherish. For these creatures are not lesser. They are my Father's creation, and they are deeply loved. His words struck me like thunder, shaking the very core of my being. I knew, in that moment, I could never look at animals the same way again. Suddenly, everything around me began to shift. The golden garden, the glowing animals, even Jesus himself. The world blurred, as if being pulled away from me. "Wait!" I cried. "I don't want to leave." Jesus smiled, but there was something final in his gaze. "It is not yet your time," he said, "but you have a mission." I opened my mouth to ask what he meant, but before I could, the light around me exploded. A rush, like being pulled through time and space itself. Then pain. I gasped, my body jerking violently as voices shouted around me. "She's back!" someone called. "She's breathing!" My eyes fluttered open to blinding hospital lights. Machines beeped, antiseptic filled the air, and a doctor stood over me, his face a mix of shock and relief. For a moment, I thought it had all been a dream. Until I saw Max. He was standing at the foot of my hospital bed, tail wagging, eyes filled with joy. But it was more than that. I could feel him, sense him, in a way I never had before. The bond between us was stronger, more vibrant, as if I could hear his soul whispering to mine. Tears welled in my eyes as I reached out and touched him. "I saw you," I whispered. "I saw everything." Max leaned into me, pressing his head against my chest as if he already knew. And in that moment I understood. I had been sent back with a message, a mission, to tell the world what I had seen, to remind people that their pets are more than just companions. They are sacred, sent from heaven, with a purpose. To share the truth Jesus had shown me, that love, no matter how small, no matter how fleeting, never dies. As I lay in that hospital bed, I felt different, changed in a way that words could never capture. The doctors were baffled by my survival. I had been clinically dead for 6 minutes, and yet, here I was, alive, breathing. But what they didn't understand, what even I struggled to comprehend, was that I hadn't just survived. I had been sent back, with a mission, and I would never see the world the same way again. The Garden of Light, where love was eternal, had revealed a truth that shattered everything I thought I knew. I had always believed animals were important, but I had never truly understood their purpose. I had never realized that they weren't just part of creation. They were part of us. Jesus had made it clear. Animals were not lesser beings. They were here for a reason, just as we were. They were teachers, healers, companions, and guardians of the unseen. They carried burdens we could not bear, offered love without condition, and remained loyal beyond the limits of the human heart. But most importantly, they were reflections of God's love. I remembered how Jesus had shown me the web of light connecting humans and animals, the threads of love that tied us together across time. Beyond death, every act of kindness toward them, every moment of love shared, echoed into eternity. Then I thought of all the people who had lost their beloved pets, mourning them as if they were family. I had seen them, in that heavenly realm, reunited in a love even deeper, and more beautiful than before. Tears filled my eyes. How many people were out there grieving, believing they had lost their pets forever, when in truth those souls were still with them, waiting for the day they would be together again. At that moment I knew I couldn't keep this to myself. Jesus had told me to share this truth, to remind people that the love they give to animals is never wasted, to tell them that their pets remember them, miss them, and wait for them. The weight of that realization was overwhelming, yet at the same time I felt an unshakable peace. Jesus had trusted me with this message. I couldn't ignore it. Max nudged my hand, his warm brown eyes searching mine. It was as if he already knew. And in that moment I made a silent promise. I would tell the world, I would let them know that their pets were more than just companions. They were part of something far greater. That love never dies.